Hey everybody, how's it going?
Going well, you?
Good, it's good.
Oh, this. Sorry, I'm just.
No, you're fine.
Here. I must be in the center.
How's it going?
It's going quite well. I want to welcome you to my home. I'm Dr. Mark Hatala, and these are my students. And today we're going to talk about the social roles that each one of us fulfill in our lives. But I thought we could start by people introducing themselves.
Howdy, I'm Zach.
I'm Maddy.
I'm Annie.
I'm Will.
And I'm Ashley.
Outstanding. So I've asked them these are some of my favorite students, and I've asked them to talk about some of the social roles, at least three social roles that they feel like they fill in their lives and what's expected of them, etc. And there's probably going to be a lot of redundancy, I would think, because you're all at the same age level. Yeah. But what would you guys say? What are some of the roles that you fulfill?
I mean, the most obvious one is probably being a student and being subservient is a weird word to put here, but beneath professors in terms of power imbalances and that sort of thing. I think that's the most obvious one for us.
So what do you think the expectations are for you guys as students then too?
I think grades for sure. Are we talking more like a generic kind of level?
It's however you want to answer it.
So I guess in my family, when you use the word student, what is expected is you go to class, you don't skip class, you do your homework, get it done on time, and you study hard, you get good grades. I think that has always been something if there has been something my parents have really harped on, me and my sister, since I can remember, it's always been grades. I mean, I remember being in 5th grade and my parents really harping on grades and whatnot. So I think that's just a big thing, and not necessarily because they think it's what defines you or anything. I think it's more than anything is that specifically with both of them, both my parents, they had good grades but not great, and I think to an extent, I don't think they should, but I think specifically my dad looks back at what he maybe could have done if he would have had better grades, and they just don't want that from me and my sister. So they're like, if you get the best grades you can get into the best schools you can, and then with the best grades, you have more opportunities to do different things. So yeah, I think that's kind of when I think student, that's the grades I think is the biggest point right there.
Is that true for all of you guys, that grades are a big part of how you see yourself as a student? Because it wasn't for me. I've said this in class before too. I used to make my college girlfriend insane because I never checked my grades. And I used to tell her I did the best I could and I don't care what my grade is. And that probably explains why I had a 3.1 undergraduate GPA. But I didn't worry about grades. We've raised my children the same way. My oldest son, who is earning 2 PhDs, his last semester of college, he was in 4 classes. He had a B, 2 C's, and a D. And I said, way to stumble over the finish line when he graduated. But so student is definitely a part of your guys' lives. And it sounds like probably you're fastidious about grades. What are some of the other roles that you feel like you fulfill?
I would say
Ashley?
one that I feel socially most times is mom friend, as a concept, mom friend.
Same.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I feel like anybody can be a mom friend. You don't have to be a mom. Not that I am a mom. We're getting on. Exactly.
So you don't have any children that you know of?
I was just I would hope that I would remember.
But you're going to be a teacher, so isn't that kind of a mom role?
So I don't want kids in life. Whenever people ask me about that, I'm always I'm gonna have 200 kids a year. I think I'll be good. Yeah. But part of that I feel goes into my identity as a mom friend because I like to take care of people, but also I feel because of that tendency, that's kind of the social role I'm expected to fill in some situations. If people are fighting, I feel I'm expected to be the mediator. I'm expected to drive people around and like be that person who like has what you need. Like if anybody needs a tissue, they look to me, and I'm like, of course I have a tissue, but like why did you have to look at me first, you know? Maybe somebody else has a tissue.
Yeah.
And like things like that. So like I feel like the mom friend as a social role is often characterized by that person who takes care of other people and like helps
and
other
cares
people
about other people.
So like it is a role that I think I take a lot of pride in.
Of course.
But at the same time, like I feel like it is a role that I'm not always wanting to be in, but something that I feel like I have because that's kind of like the history that I have with a lot of my friends. So.
Very good.
You're a mom friend too?
Yeah,
Zach?
did you want to say something about that, Zach, as a mom friend?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the questions I was going to say is do you ever resist some of these expectations that people have of you?
I was more in that niche when I was in high school. Like, I carried tampons in my backpack. Because
That's awesome.
most of my friends were girls, and sometimes unexpected things happen.
Of course. And that's very thoughtful of you.
Thank you. Since then, and particularly in like romantic relationships, I have dropped some responsibility just because I feel like I don't have to do that sort of thing anymore. So I think that's changed. I kind of try not to define myself in terms of social roles these days.
Okay.
Probably the biggest thing is just like I want to give people applicable information because psychology is pretty much applicable in every way. And people don't know that they need to, when they buy new over-the-counter drugs, that they need to check that with their actual medications because there might be interactions. Yeah. And I feel like it's obvious, but that's probably just because I've taken classes on it.
I think that is because you've taken classes. And I think people mostly think if they're selling it at a store, it's probably okay.
All supplements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So student, friend, it sounds like, and we see ourselves in different ways as friends. Other roles that we see. Maddy?
Employee.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just like any job I've worked at, it's been a responsibility of mine to show up to work on time, do what is expected of me, be helpful, be cheerful normally, you know. In most service jobs, you have to interact with people, therefore you need to kind of put on a smile. You can't be like, I hate my life, what do you want?
And my customers.
Yeah, even if you do hate your customers, you need to be like, hi, how are you? It's so good to see you for the 4th day in a row. Yes, come on in. So glad. So there are definite expectations and like roles that I must like uphold while I'm in that sort of setting, even if it doesn't really feel like something I want to do.
Yeah.
I still have to assume that role and be a good employee. So
Has everyone here had a job? I don't know that that's Okay, so everyone has worked as an employee then. Okay. Very good.
I'll say another role
Uh-huh.
is like daughter/sister, and I feel like
those together?
well, I guess like just like being an active member of like my family, and like I guess being away like at college, like you don't see everybody every day, so like I feel like I have to put more, I guess like I do have to put more effort into like go out of my way and like call them and contact them and make sure like they're okay, everything's good, like help
I can say
them
as
out.
a parent, they really do appreciate that you're telling them what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
Even the mundane aspects of your life are very interesting to your parents.
Yeah, because it's like whenever we're all living like in the same house over the summer or even just before we all went to college, everybody knew what was going on in people's lives because we all ate dinner together and stuff. But now we don't have that, and like maybe it's just like me giving myself that role because I have a fear of like disconnecting from my family, and I don't want that to happen. I want them to be like a part of my life. And so I take that role a lot more seriously now, and like trying to like make sure I reach out and like contact them and let them know what's going on, but also like help them when they have trouble, because I am a middle child, so I am the one who gets talked to the most from all of my siblings.
Sure.
I think that's like one of the most important roles you can play is family. And even if family is not particularly important for some people, it's still then that association with it is so important too. One way or another. And I do think with college, I think that's one of the hardest ones to keep up. You know, I don't want to say it's not a pushing back against, but I think for some it could be. Obviously, because, you know, we all know those college people that, you know, they come here and like, oh my gosh, I'm finally free of my parents. I think that's kind of pushing back on it, but I think when you don't push back on it, you want to keep it. I think it's one of the hardest social rules you can keep up because it's just, you don't always have time, you know, and it's like you have to make time to call your parents, you know, and talk to them, you know, and something even as simple as, you know, like for instance, a lot of times if I'm talking to my dad, it's texting him about Mizzou football, you know, or the Cardinals, you know. But it still is that, you know, keeping in contact. And you know, it's not always the easiest, you know, and you have, you know, if you have sports practice, you have to work or whatever, you know, but I think it's both one of the more difficult ones to keep up, but also one of the most, if not the most rewarding social role you can possibly have.
If I may, I'd like to bring up one thing on family social roles and even like friend social roles and how that has changed throughout like the influence of technology. I feel like people having cell phones has made those roles so much harder to maintain now.
Oh, you don't think it's easier to maintain?
Because the expectations are now through the roof. Like if you don't talk to somebody who you consider a friend every day when you have a cell phone, then it can be perceived as you not wanting to talk to them or you ignoring them, even worse.
That's a very good point.
Also like with instant communication, like if somebody texts you no matter what the hour and you don't respond, oftentimes it's seen as a decision to not respond rather than I was busy and I didn't get your message. And if you do that,
missed their text or something.
Yeah, or like, and if you do that repeatedly, then it like makes you seem like a worse friend because you're not like open to communication at all times. And like, so I would say that like because of technology, like the expectations have gotten higher, and so relationships, maintaining them, especially across distance, has become a lot harder because you are living your own life, you know, you're going to classes, you have things, and you're busy, but you have this expectation that you should be talking to your family a couple times a week, once a day, so on and so forth. Whereas like before, I mean, it was whenever you were home to make a phone call. Or like even before that, it was like you would wait 2 weeks to write a letter and send a letter back.
My mom is in a nursing home, and I write her every week because she can't remember when we talk on the phone, but she can always reread a letter. And I Skype with my children when they're away too.
Yeah, and I think those are like much more genuine and like they feel better forms of communication, but they're not as acceptable now. Like I write letters with like my great grandma because she doesn't have a phone. But like we write each other back and forth, you know, once or twice a month because like she lives in Texas and it's a long way for the letter to carry. Yeah. But like I feel like I have a good connection with her and like I know her pretty well. But like I feel like that connection is a lot stronger than the connection that I have with like my parents or even my siblings who I talk to on the phone once or twice a week. Because I feel like it's an obligation sometimes because I want to keep up that connection, I want to have a good relationship, but I feel like I have to decide sometimes between like, am I going to do my homework today or am I going to have an hour-long conversation with my sister, you know?
Well, I cherish letters, and it's Dr. Hatala, and you can look up my contact information. The big rules that we didn't talk about today are things like pet owner and being part of a romantic relationship. So perhaps people could leave those ideas in the comments, and we would ask you to like this video, to subscribe, and to leave comments. And we thank you for watching, and have a great day.
Thank you for joining.
Okay, very good. How are we on time?